call to order the Wednesday, January 20th, 2021 meeting of the Lake Havasu Airport Advisory Board. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Ms. Herzog, would you conduct a roll call, please? Here.
Here. Here. Here. Here.
Thank you.
Here.
Thank you. We begin the meetings with a paragraph that sets the rules for how we can have members of the audience address the board on the call to the public section. I'm going to read this to you. We will now have an open call to the public for citizens wishing to address the board on issues within the jurisdiction of the board. Your comments must be limited to 3 minutes or less. If you wish to address an item already on today's agenda, you should wait until that item is announced for a public hearing. At the conclusion of the open call to the public, individual members of the board may respond to criticisms made by those who address the board. They may ask staff to review a matter or may ask that a matter be placed on a future agenda. However, board members cannot discuss or take legal action on matters not already on the agenda. With that in mind, do we have anyone present that would like to address the board on any subject? Seeing none, we'll go to the next item, which is the approval of the minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve. Item 5.1 is approval of the September 16th, 2020 meeting minutes. You provided those minutes via email, I believe. Does anyone have any comments or corrections on those minutes? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the September 16th, 2020 meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I move that we accept the September 16th meeting minutes.
Yes, I'll second.
Okay. Is there any more discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Next item is another set of minutes that need to be approved. It's approval of our last meeting, which is the February 19th, 2020 meeting minutes. Excuse me, this is the meeting that was back in February. So you want to have any corrections or additions to those minutes? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes of the February 19th meeting.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved as well. Item 6 is communications announcements and airport supervisors report. I'll turn it over to Damon Anderson for that.
Thank you, Shannon. I'll start off with the revenues. Back in November 20th, we got a report, and we were only 38% through the year, physical year, but we're up 42%. So we're actually 4% across the board in higher in revenues this year, which is good. And as of today, we were actually 12% above our revenues as of last year, to date, which is a good sign. Cindy's been really on top of it, her and Paul, everybody working on getting some vehicle parking that we all know has been, out of control over there. We've been getting tons of agreements on those. That's, I think in November that was up 111%, not even halfway through the year. But so we're making some good headway with that. The master plan is complete. I think everybody's pretty much aware of that. You can go online and find that on the city's website as well. There's several of these things that we're working on right now. We're working on CIP. That's one reason we're going to kind of start talking about some of the hangar development later. We're also going to be working on, this is the year that our 5-year consultant contract is up. So we're going to be going out to bid for that again this year, where we get, we acquire another consultant for the next 5 years. Not sure if everybody's familiar with that, but mhm. Sure, capital improvement program. Yeah, we're going to be going into that for the, one-time supplemental requests and things of that nature with the city. And we actually had our first work session today, and there'll be several more, but we've got a good start on that. Another thing that's come up, I've just recently got a contact with ADOT, which I know last time we were here, we had got complaints about some dust problems down through there and all the side-by-sides going along. I'm currently reaching out to this gentleman, and we're going to see about first just starting off with some signs and things like that down through there, that just say, hey, please, dust-free area, something of that sort. That's what we want to go for with that. And I think they're on board with that. I've already exchanged emails or so they understand what we're going after. And then one more thing, we had that F-16 that showed up at our airport, here a while back with the emergency and had to change the engine out on the field and the whole bit. Needless to say, after that, I got a call from the Air Force Base, and they want to, he was asking me if it would be okay if they start sending in lots of their chief pilots and instructors and things like that to get a better idea of the airport and familiarization with it before an emergency comes up. So I sure enough told them definitely you can do that. So needless to say, the other day we've had several low passes come through there with some F-35s and things like that. They're not going to be doing it every day and things of that nature, but it would be good to be aware that these guys are going to be around now. I'm going to work with them again to maybe possibly start scheduling certain days that they do that, letting me know in advance. That way I can possibly get out and put it on the AWAS in the mornings. That way people can be on the lookout. It's not a very welcoming sight when you're 16 or no matter how old you are, but if you're on your first solo flight trying to fly your airplane all by yourself for the first time and you got one of those guys goes by you, it can sure change things up for you real quick. So we don't want that. And that's all I have right now for the report. I know we normally do the upcoming events as well, but with the COVID going on, we haven't been able to have any of those events. I'm hoping this come next year that that's going to start opening up and we're going to start getting some people back out at the airport, things like that happening.
Does any board member have any questions on the presentation?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. According to those scheduled events and stuff, when is it that they stopped scheduling them? And I think there was a balloon fest, possibly an air show. I'm not sure. Can you enlighten me on that? And then how long you tentatively see the shutdown occurring?
Yeah, I'm not sure, about how long it would be, but normally the Airfest comes around in November, and we work with Hangar 24 to get that done. And they're the ones that made the call this year that they wouldn't be able to do it. And the Balloon Fest, Mr. Dolan might know more about the Balloon Fest than I do.
That was a decision made by the Balloon Fest, mainly just because of the donations they need to get out of the community, and they just knowing how COVID would be this year, and it was a lot to put together with so many unknowns. So they did do a golf tournament, from my understanding. They did a 5K. They were going to have a night glow out at Sarah Park with a drive-in movie, but the winds, so I think we're 15 gusting to 20, so they canceled that a day or two out. So, and it would have been this weekend, which is not looking the greatest weather-wise. So, be wet and windy, it looks like. So,
and when we get the all clear, I'm going to try to start bringing more things to the airport. Some smaller little events. You never know, some little stall, competitions, different things of that sort, or even just some fly-ins. Just try to get some people back out there, bring that interest back to the community and the children and things of that nature.
Damon, there was a discussion after the F-16 emergency landing a year and a half ago that exited the runway. about training for the fire department specific to those aircraft. It was the Air Force. I spoke with them and they said they were open to it, but as far as I know, they've never followed through with anything.
I haven't heard from them at all when it comes to any of that. You know, I'm sure they would, they would probably, I could definitely, whenever I talk to them again, I could, bring that back up and see if they're interested in coming down and doing some training with our ARF guys and the whole bit. That's one thing that we were able to get in the budget last year, since you brought it up about the ARF. I was able to get some money approved and in our budget for that, and they're sending, I believe, 3 of the gentlemen from the fire station there back to ARF training so that they are fully certified with the ARF truck and the capabilities of it. Which I think it's great that we've got that going again, as well as they approved, money in the budget to take care of the ARC trucks for some maintenance and things of that nature. So that was real good news on my part, and really want to thank the city for allowing us to keep that and get those guys trained.
Absolutely. Well, certainly you and I know that specific to the F-16, they have the emergency generators or hydrazine. So if they're having an engine problem, that's deployed, and hydrazine is an extremely dangerous
Hazard.
chemical,
Yeah.
and our people, I think, need to be trained how to deal with it.
For sure, for sure.
Any other questions? Item 7.
Oh, wait, I just had one more. Pertaining to the dust-free zone and those signs, where exactly was that again? And is there a different route the drivers will be able to use?
Yeah, they're kind of just going, there's Wayland Drive, which, if you actually look up at your map right here, this is Wayland Drive coming right down through here. And what they've done is let's see if I can get my bearings. I believe it's right in here somewhere. This is where they'll get back off the pavement, and then they're driving along the bar ditches down through here. And they could drive on the pavement the whole way, but it's just the nature of those vehicles. They want to drive off road or what have you. So I'm going to try to, like I say, put signs down through there, divert them, and keep them back over onto the pavement. And once they get past the hangars and all of our development, then they can drop back out.
And that's traffic headed to Craigie Wash, possibly, per se?
Yeah.
Campers and stuff?
Yeah, I guess. To be honest, I'm not sure where they're headed, what they're doing. Other than out to that, one of those bars that's out in that area.
Oh, yeah,
I've heard
yeah.
about that quite a bit.
Okay. Thank you again.
Yeah.
Okay, item 7.1 is a public hearing, and it's a presentation of Taxway Alpha Rehabilitation Project, and that's, again, Mr. Anderson's.
Yeah, just wanted to give everybody kind of an update. You can see on your screens there, this is, I've got tons of slides and definitely open to lots of questions here. I mean, there's a lot to this. But I just wanted to show this. Let me go back to kind of give you an idea when it's going to start. We're looking to send it out to bid in April. And then we're hoping that the construction is going to start, roughly around the end of June, early July. It can possibly be between 180 to 225 day construction period for this. And then you can see here that it's been put into phases with blue being phase 1. I don't have my legend down here, but anyhow, this is phase 1 over here. They're going to knock this out, and they kind of have to do this just to maintain access to different facilities on the field. So they'll knock that out and then come down, do phase 2 and then phase 3. Let's see. One of the things with the taxiway, I know there was several concerns. We're losing our connectors. We're actually losing these high-speed connectors right here. Let me show you another. This drawing is going to actually give you everything that's in red checkered is what's going to be taken away, and then the green is what's going to be replaced. So as you can see, Alpha 5, Alpha 4, 3, and 2 are all being removed, and we're going to replace it with Alpha 2 and Alpha 3 here. Another thing that's happening with the taxiway is it's narrowing to 35 feet from 50 feet. But so it's kind of strange. But when you look at it, it's actually going to be 15 foot wider than it looks right now whenever it's said and done. It's going to be a 35-foot taxiway, but it's going to have 15-foot shoulders on each side, which in turn is going to add, or I say 15-foot shoulders, I say 17 and a half foot, I believe. But needless to say, it's going to gain, and let me find my other picture. So this right here is a little rendering that our consultants did for us, and this is actually, it's kind of hard to see the light blue color, but this is actually to scale everything here. And this is a V22 Osprey. And if you see, this one is laying over the original, our existing high-speed taxiway. And if you notice, the props overhanging over the shoulders of it. And then now that you look at the new taxiway and the width it's going to be with the shoulders, it's actually going to be, there's going to be more pavement underneath the aircraft in general than there actually is right now when it comes to, rotor wash, different things of that nature, getting over onto the side. And another thing that I found out, it's, I'm thinking, so these shoulders are going to be big, it's going to look wider, what have you. In all reality, in my first thought, a shoulder's not going to be near as up to strength as a regular taxiway, but the new AC and the standards that the FAA has come out with, it's almost just as strong as the taxiway itself. So it's really not going to be much of a difference. In all reality, it's actually, we're getting a larger taxiway in the way it looks. You're just going to have some narrow stripes on it, is what it amounts to. And let's see.
Dan,
like
can I
to
ask you a question?
Yes, please.
What was the thinking behind taking away the more angular, going with the right angles on them?
So that's another one of the ACs at the FAA. It's a new design standard. So these high-speed taxis, they only justify them if we have an operation every 2 minutes coming in, which we don't have. Some days we do. I mean, some days, it can get a lot busier, but we just don't have the number of operations to justify having those for them. And then the other thing that they want to really get away from are these acute angles. If you were to come in and you miss the first one and then you come down, well, now you've got this acute angle back. And then another issue that you can see here on both of them, a new design standard, is they don't want to have direct access from a connector taxiway straight to an apron or vice versa. And you can see here Bravo 2 goes straight out to Alpha 3, as well as this Charlie 2 onto Alpha 2. And hence, this is why that the new Alpha 2 is being put right here, over that one island that you got. And the same with this one, it's like, whoa, why did you take this one out and move it 15 foot over? And it just had to do with this direct access to that apron right there. And
Can you speak to the changes in the run-up area on 3-2?
Changes in the run-up area, that's going to turn into a pretty big project. I'm sure a lot of y'all have seen when you're down there at that run-up. That's a big drop-off and big terrain change right there. But they're coming in, and that's just another one of those design standards that the FAA has. They don't want to have that direct access around and want you to have to make this little circle path for some reason or another. I can kind of come up with a better explanation for that.
Is the green area a part of the design now that's going to be constructed then?
Correct. Yeah, you see that little circle there in green? Yeah, that's what it's going to look like now. Luckily, we were able to get them to put that back in for us, because at first they just wanted to totally do away with them, and it says, like you said, we really need that in the summertime for sure. Any more questions on it?
So, Mr. Chair, so ultimately with the new guidelines and regulations, you still feel happy and confident in the plan and the way they made us move forward?
Yeah.
Okay. And then also tentatively, we do get busy one year, let's say we do, hypothetically thinking, is there a way to implement, or do they have new regulations for the 2-minute rule in case, we go through and we change all this and then we're busy in 5 years and, oh geez, we got flights coming in. They would still want those 90 degrees in there and such.
No, that's it's definitely doable. I had a long conversation with the FAA about it because I knew the concerns that were here, and they told me that we're kind of so far into the game right now. It'd definitely be hard to back out of it. He says, but let's go ahead and do what we have planned. Let's evaluate it over the next year. That evaluation was more along the lines of military and just flow of traffic and things of that nature, not necessarily how many operations we have, but we were going to look at it and see if we really needed those back and could justify it. Next year, when we get into doing the runway rehabilitation, it wouldn't be hard to just throw one right back in. And then we can even move it to wherever it would make more sense at that.
It would probably have to be moved closer to midfield to be viable, would it not?
Correct. Right.
No, thank you.
Are there any other questions from members of the board? Okay, this is a public hearing. Are there any members in the audience that would like to address the board on this subject? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Item 7.2 is discussion and possible action on future hangar development. And once again, that's Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say with this. I'm just trying to open the conversation up. We've got our appraisal report that I've given to all of y'all that you have. And that's going to give us our new numbers of what we can work off of. You know, and I've said in the past, there's several different options to get hangars built at the airfield. The city could do it on their own. We could, you know, put the money up, build all the infrastructure and do the renting on our own, which in turn for the city, that's going to be the best revenue source. But it also has the biggest capital outlay that comes with that, and that's the downfall to that side of it. Or we can do like we had done back in the past. We can open certain sections of land up for developers to come in and give us some proposals on what they would pay. And at least now we have the appraisal that's going to give us that base floor fair market value that they would have to at least meet, but could go up from there, which we didn't have that the last time that we did this. And then we also have the option of, you know, allotting certain sections of the airport property out there to just individuals themselves, just to build their own private hangars and what have you. So those are kind of the three things I'm looking at. Another thing I wish I would have gave to y'all, but you can find online, AOPA has got a very good hangar development guideline that I've been using as well. And if y'all would like to, you know, research that and get that on your own to, you know, help with this, it'd be great. It's definitely got some great information in it. But like I say, I just kind of wanted to start the conversation, you know, and see what the direction to go. Like I say, my thought and recommendation is I want to try to ask the city, you know, to come up with the capital money to build our own. But, and then again, who's to say that we can't do all options even at the same time? You know, I can go ahead and get the city. We can start on doing some individual hangars. Or vice versa. It depends, you know, if we're allowed to let individuals, because to me it seems like the demand is for the individual hangars more than anything. You know, I mean, I've got 40 people plus on a waiting list. No telling how many more would get on there if they knew that we were, you know, opening things up. There's also demand, you know, for flight school, flight instructors, and more mechanics on the field at that. So we could do some big, large hangars where there's some shared space, and we could get some of those other facilities in there. Or we could, like I say, just open it back up. Here's a lot of land. We need a ground rent for it, and, you know, and just have at it. And the one thing that we'll have to, you know, to me, it's just a little more work involved with trying to stay on top of making sure that these developers and whoever has developed that land is following the FAA guidelines, and they're not overcharging with economic discrimination and things of that nature. And they're still maintaining the proper fair market value rent on the airfield, regardless of it being their private development. So that's one of the obstacles you run into when you get with those people. I believe we more than likely have some of that still going on the field right now that we're trying to address. Like I say, I'm definitely open to suggestions, questions, anything. I'm just trying to get the conversation started.
Damon, can you go to page 4, Roman numeral 4 in the lower right corner of your report? I have a question to try to understand. Let me know when you're there.
Yes, go ahead.
On the far right, property identified as D, approximately 7.85 acres of land. It says estimated rent. They're proposing that that's the rent that could be collected on that piece of land. And then to the right of that, for an executive hangar, $6.30 per square foot per year for a total of $17,577. Am I understanding that right? Am I dissecting that?
Yes.
Okay, so the land should generate $661,000 of income in 1 year per square foot per year, I guess, right?
$17,000 per year.
That's the executive hangar. Just to the left of that, I'm talking about the land, 7.85 acres.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the calculation of how many square feet are in 1 acre right now, but I'm gonna assume that that's correct.
Yeah, it's 42,000 something square feet per acre. But wow, that's a tremendous amount of revenue, huh? 661 a year.
Yeah, I'll let me double check on all that and do the math over on that just to make sure that's right.
You see where we're at? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Any other members of the board have any comments?
No, I'm intrigued. I'm excited for Damon's
speaking.
vision for sure to see what he's done already over, since he's been manager. It's just been amazing. A testament to airport managers, because I've been around with Kingman and some other places, Bullhead City, and just to see what he's done is great. And I'd entertain a recommendation if the chair would like to move forward, I would make a recommendation when it's time, if that's an appropriate at this meeting, to the city council to have them look at his proposal and maybe take steps forward, initializing the pros and cons of each thing,
Right.
something in that line.
I think we're way
Mr.
way
Stebbins,
premature. We don't have any specific proposals on the table. We're looking for guidance. for what
possible
the
action. I
proposal would
thought that's
be.
when we do something, when we intend to take possible action. I think that was, or this is a moment when we would take possible action.
Yeah, we could possibly talk about, possibly look at future agenda items as forming a committee of some sort. You know what I mean? To really have some help looking it over. What was the thought on that?
The airplane owners and pilots that come to me are unanimous in that their want is a single airplane hangar. And as opposed. And I think we believe that if we built out the north ramp now, if we had the capability as the airport sponsor to go and borrow the money to do that it would have a positive cash flow from day one.
I agree.
As far as the other things, there's no reason that, as Damon said, in my opinion, that all items can't be done simultaneously.
Right.
There's no reason why, notwithstanding not knowing what the city budget's going to be and what the shortfalls are with the COVID or any other thing that's a concern to the city council.
And then
I am convinced that if we built out the north ramp, that it would pay for itself immediately. And the big thing for me is, what's the best thing for the airport enterprise fund? Now, that's the fund that has to operate the airport.
correct.
Certainly the difference between the city building a hangar and leasing that stuff for 18 cents a square foot per year, it's night and day difference.
Correct.
I think that 18 months ago, we thought that over 20 years, we would have a $20 million input into the airport enterprise fund if the city built single hangars. Now, perhaps, ideally there would be someone who wants to build a larger hangar, but all that stuff, in my view, can be investigated. And if you need to put out RFPs, you put out RFPs, but
Right.
certainly now we have real figures that you can put out an RFP for. And
Right. Yeah, and if nothing else, I can still at least, I've got those figures to make my own business plans for the city, to look that over as well.
I have a question. You mentioned expanding on the north ramp. How many hangars do you think would fit in the north ramp? And I guess the next question would be for discussion is, if we had 40 on a waiting list, what would be an ideal number to start with, for example?
my belief is that if we had 30 hangars for rent right now, they would be all rented. Do you agree with that, Dan?
I do. One thing we'd have to look at too is, what would one development do to the demand of the other one? That's
Right.
one thing I've got to take into account as well. And your question at the north ramp, I believe that we can get 21 hangars up there in that area of the same size that we have right now. If we were to maintain that, one large building with 3 single hangars inside of it.
Is that the Future Aviation Reserve Support section on the diagram here?
Yeah, let's see.
It's property A
Property.
on this, on appraiser report. It's
Oh, yeah,
property
I
A.
see that.
Mhm.
Oh, I see. You can move it over to the map. I see it now. That's exactly what it is, yeah.
Oh, yeah, right here.
Right there, yeah. And then there's one a little bit south of that.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
got right here. That's where we were hoping to possibly do the large community hangar,
Yeah.
flight instruction facility, mechanic shop.
Damon,
My
what
thoughts.
is future non-aviation revenue support? What is in your vision? What is that?
You know, right there, to be honest, I've really had lots of ideas in this one spot right here below, for a new hotel.
Ah,
You know, something of that sort
sure.
out on that end of town. I'm not sure how you know, how some of the local hotel owners would feel about a new one coming into town, if the demand's there or not. But that's something that I feel like would really be useful there. I mean, but the sky's the limit. I mean, if you know, you can pretty much do anything so long as it's not going to be. I mean, storage buildings could be another thing. That's, you know, a huge thing in town. There's no risk, and in my opinion, too, we could even possibly do that and give exclusive rights, even possibly to some of the people on the field to use those. That way, we make sure that they're not trying to put stuff inside their hangars. That.
Question about the hotel, something like this, would you collect, that's airport property, so it'd be
We would get
something that
ground
would
rent.
generate rent, okay.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions from the board?
I have a question. What do you need for the February agenda on the city council for your budget purposes? What do you need to go into February with from the advisory committee?
Well, we put in, so we actually just kind of had it today, one of our first talks with it. They didn't have the actual, you know, detailed sheet for it that I had presented to them last year. They're kind of going to do the same thing, but as of right now, like you're saying, with wondering how many, my plan is just to throw out roughly $200,000 in requests to do one bank of three and see what kind of response I can get from that. And, you know, if they're open to doing even more, you know, and going all out and doing several of them, then that would be great as well. But I just need to continue to put that together. I've given Greg some of those numbers already. He brought it up in the council work session this morning. So it's definitely on their radar to be looking for it. And we're just going to continue on with some more numbers and get these business plans put together. And I guess that too might have been kind of where we was looking, you know, if we have a group of people want to come help get all that done, it won't hurt nothing. You know, the more people I got, the more eyes and ears and thoughts and manpower behind it won't do anything but help.
David, do you present at the council retreat tomorrow? Do you have an airport update or anything?
I'm not going to be there.
Okay.
No, they're really limited to who can come, and they're not going to have Zoom set up, so I didn't get an invite this year.
I'll ask Mr. Dolan to correct me where I'm wrong, but it's my belief that the airport board doesn't direct anything to the council requesting budget items. That's gone through Damon and the city staff, and we don't have any input into the budget until it comes time to vote on that budget. So it's not within our purview to come up with a recommendation right now to the city council to build hangars. It's got to come through another process.
I would agree. The best thing right now, I think, is also just general discussion. You know, we talked about hangars. You know, I think we're getting some good information. We could put 21 in the north. You know, we think we could probably do, this is things I'd want to know when we made a decision. You know, how many could we build right now and have them rented out as soon as they're done? You know, if we do 50, are we sitting on 10 of them at that point? You know, I definitely, for one, like the idea of building the single hangars out there. I think there is the demand for it. You know, I guess the question is what's a safe number to go at? You know, also, like I said, a discussion for the board is, like I said, the pros and cons of, you know, the two different hangars you were talking about,
Mhm.
the group
Individuals
hangars,
or shared.
the group hangars, and then even the possibility of, you know, who would, you know, is there a demand, you know, this is the airport committee, is there a demand out there in your guys' opinion for those other two? You know, it's not like I said, it sounds like there's more demand at the moment for the individual hangars, but how would that work if there was a group hangar or if there was,
Co-op.
you know, co-op, or how that works? So
May I please just
Go ahead.
maybe just make an opinion? I mean, my understanding, being on the boards and stuff over time, is when it's on the agenda, we can speak of it. If we don't list any discussions in future agendas, we as an advisory board will not be able to discuss it. So I think in this time, according to how I did Parks and Rec and some other processes, I think I should recommend the liaison to the city council to take these questions to the board in a closed meeting, open meeting, however the liaison, Mr. Jim Dolan, thinks it should be brought to the board, so that way that guarantees discussion moves forward. Because if I don't make that recommendation and we say what we want to here today, it might not ever show up on a docket. Our meetings might not be for another 6 months. We're missing key opportunities for the people and citizens to get their hangar conversation live.
I think
So-
what I'm trying to explain to you is that we don't drive the budget process.
No, not the budget, but it's, the possible action of future hangar development would then be handed off to Jim Dolan. So we're recommending Jim Dolan take Damon's request to the city council. Because if we don't recommend it, it's all just on you and your schedule. And I think I'm correct in that. Can you?
Yeah, and I think the board can, like in a way, symbolically recommend that we keep this going, encourage that it's going. It's public record that it's out there. The board has support for it in these different areas. And of course, then I can take with it. Doesn't necessarily mean that I have to take it to the board and bring it up at the next board meeting or the next council meeting. But of course, like I said, we would definitely continue that conversation. But like I said, a lot of this is done, at staff level, at Damon's level. We're talking about a hypothetical proposal that hasn't been put together yet. So, once he kind of gets an idea from what the board and your guys' input, it gives him a better idea too. Does he start with, recommendation for 10 hangars or 20 hangars or 30 hangars, and then we kind of get that going. And then, so like, I think we've definitely started the process. And like I said, so we can, someone on the board can make a recommendation that as a board, we would like to have this continue. We as the board would like to, see this continue. We ask Councilmember Dolan or Damon manager to continue this process and report back to us with any changes. You can do things like that.
And I agree, and I think that that's the most important way to move forward because it keeps the public ear involved in those meetings. Staff meetings, we're not allowed at. Public's not allowed at. So it keeps the people interested in those questions.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid just the staff making a decision, say, oh, well, we've heard from our friend and we've heard from our friend that this is how it should be. Let's hear from those people. Let's keep these meetings public. They're fun, they're interesting, they're creative. It's a way for these community members to come out from the airport community and bid, get their input in, and really move it in the direction that they want to move it into with Damon and your guidance.
And it'll, like I said, once it goes through staff, once staff has something that we want to request from the city council $200,000 to build the hangars, then it comes to us at our level, and then we, then like I said before, we would discuss that. We'd probably push it to the advisory board because then we want your guys' opinion. Once there is a proposal, for 20 hangars, then it would come to us hypothetically. We discuss it. You guys could make a recommendation. Yes, we support the recommendation for 20 hangars. Then when it came to council, we would look at it and we'd have a recommendation from this board in one direction or the other. Or no, we actually would, we encourage 20, but we would like to really see 40. Well, then when that comes to our meeting, then we get to have that discussion of, well, let's push it back to staff. Well, what numbers would we look at if we were doing 30 or doing 40? So we kind of start that process. So.
Yeah, for example, the same thing we did on Parks and Rec with Sarah Park. Numbers came to the board. We made the recommendation to move that step forward, went back to city council. They decided what they wanted to do before they brought an action back to the board. And then, CIP approved it. So there were many times in the development of Sarah Park that we were brought in to recommend further things up the scale. So if the board and the liaison, Jim Dolan, I would like to make a recommendation that the city council continue to look into Damon's proposals for the future projects of the Lake Havasu City Airport.
Yeah, the briefing that I had from the mayor and Mr. Dolan is that that's not the way they do things now, today. What we're here for is to support Damon so that Damon can go to staff. We make recommendations to Damon. He goes to staff and justifies it to the staff. And then once they put their budget proposal together, they bring that to the city council. That's when we would get involved with directly saying, yeah, we like these hangars or we don't, or as a recommendation to the council. But at this point, our recommendations need to go to Damon as to what to represent to staff that we would like to see happen. I think it's just a little different. It's not totally, but a little bit.
Well, I was just curious why it said possible action, because every time it says possible action and I didn't take action in the past, I missed a key opportunity to keep something going in many meetings over the last 4 years. So I wouldn't like to miss that opportunity. I like to keep it in discussion. So maybe we can just move it in as a future agenda topic again, take it to our next
And I
meeting.
guess the question too is what additional information Damon would want or feedback from the board itself as he starts to put a proposal together for council.
Right.
I mean, I think, like I said, just the numbers that we've talked about so far, the different hangars, that some of the pros and cons, backs and forths that he can then take back when he starts sitting down to.
Yeah, no, and
put
I
a
mean,
plan
that's
together.
exactly right. And just like, you said, it's, I can take this, I can go ahead and start working the plans. I'll start out with the individual hangars first, and I'll work our way down. And then we'll have us another board meeting and I can show you all, those, numbers that I've come up with and what I plan on presenting to city council to ask for. And, and we can see what y'all's recommendation is from there.
What's your primary location though for not the community hangars, for the individual T hangars? Is it kind of in that future aviation reserve support area, kind of towards the north end? In other words, what are you targeting? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely that area for
Okay.
sure. That definitely that area, and then down off of the Charlie taxiway.
And then everything green on the diagram up on the board, that's future planning. That's part of the master plan, the green sections.
Correct. Yeah, this drawing that we're looking at right here
Yeah.
is the approved ALP that the FAA
I see.
has, and so this is all definitely on the up and up. These hangars here, and
Yeah.
they don't have to come out like this.
Yeah.
The main thing, this is a placeholder for hangars, more
Yeah.
or less. We can change them. It's pretty fluid.
Future growth.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this is the other area definitely that I'm looking at, and this section here will be a little bit more cost to the city or what have you when you come in, just because we've got to get the infrastructure in, the taxi lanes
Yeah.
to the possible hangars. And
That's
things of that
property
nature.
D, I think, right?
Hmm.
Property D, is that how it's identified?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Huh. Okay, thank you.
Is there any more discussion from the board? This is a public hearing, so I'd like to now open the public hearing for discussion of hangar development. Is there anyone present that would like to make any comments? Saying none, I'll close the public hearing. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Please come up to the microphone.
Just a question in regards to the single or the hangar development in general. I understand that the price is for single. Only thing I would sort of contribute as a thought is how much are we limiting ourselves for size of aircraft? Aircraft can get smaller, they can get bigger. So once we have the single hangars established, how much we're limiting ourselves in future use.
No, it's a great point.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, very good point. And no doubt that's definitely kind of when we're looking at the north hangars for the individual hangars at first, and then the Charlie taxiway we would reserve for
Are
some
there
of
any
those larger
other
ones.
comments for the public? I'll close the public hearing. The next item is future discussion items. So does any board member have something that they'd like for future discussion items?
Mag, please, sir. Seeing as how we have public interest in this topic, which is good to see, as well as interest from the airport manager and myself and some other board members, a lot of questions. I'd like to continue the discussion and possible action in future hangar development into our next airport meeting. Give citizens time to come and give their opinions as well, and we keep it open discussion going for a little while at the request of Jim Dolan before we make any moves forward.
Anyone else?
No, that is a good point. I have a 55-foot wingspan, and a standard T hangar probably be about 28 feet. So that's valid. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely planning on looking at some larger hangars. There's
Yeah.
several of the people on the field that got some taller tails and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Just much larger aircraft than what fits in your normal small T hangar.
So thank you.
Does my discussion item have to be seconded to be put on the agenda?
It should be seconded if it's something that would be considered for a future agenda item, yes.
Okay, yeah, so I guess that'd be the next.
And I'll second your agenda item proposal. Neighbor.
And then keep in mind how that will work is we can put it on the future agenda item for any updates, and we can, if it's next meeting and Damon hasn't put anything together and doesn't have any updates, it would be just like this meeting was. We would just continue any additional discussion. It also is good for, if we know a month out, then we get a little more public comment. People come in and give their opinions, which is of course what we're here for. So, but like I said, until Damon actually has a plan that he can put together and then start it through the council, right now it's just basically just discussion, which is good. But like I said, it gives us that opportunity for if more people want to come in and express their concerns or, excitement about possible new hangars. So
I had a conversation. I'm hoping protocol, with all respect to the protocol, I had a conversation with a gentleman who's helped other smaller, more difficult to reach cities establish scheduled air service into their area.
I'm sorry, that's not, we can't talk about.
Okay.
It's not on the agenda and it's not appropriate. You could put it on as a future discussion
Yeah,
item if you'd
that's
like.
what I was leading up to,
Okay.
actually.
and that
But-
might be something too, also to maybe check with Damon, being a new board member, maybe check with Damon and see what stuff we have talked about. Because just because it's not proposed here and seconded, it's still something that can be put on
Yeah.
by Damon in the future. If they're, like I said, if you connect him with somebody that's interested in doing it, and then we get the discussion, then it's something we could then bring to the board at that point too. So.
Well, then a very short synopsis would be, I'd like to see if we can put on the agenda a discussion about somehow establishing, scheduled commercial air service into Lake Havasu City. Yeah. And am I looking for a second for that, Mr. Chairman?
Anyone
Yeah,
wanna
you'd need a
it?
second if it's something that we would consider to put on the board,
Okay.
to put on the future
Agenda,
agendas.
okay.
Yeah. But then, like I said, it's still up to the staff if it's something that they, because we've had that discussion many times in the
Yeah,
past, and if there's nothing really new to discuss, then it wouldn't be worth necessarily putting it on. So.
Yeah, that's why I led into it with the fact that I spoke to this guy. He's done it for 5 different cities in the United States, and he seems to have a process that has been
And
successful.
just so we don't get into too much discussion, yeah, I would, if somebody wants to second it, or if we already seconded it, then.
Can I speak to maybe clarify so that way if
Actually, we
No,
need to,
this
we
isn't
need
a
to not
free-
discuss these
right,
items. It
this
just
isn't
need
a
to be put
free-
out for, we can't discuss them.
No, we can't
No,
discuss it. So I mean,
right.
unless someone seconds it, then there's a possibility of it coming on the agenda.
Tony, I'm not going to second your motion or your idea for only one reason. That is, we've talked about that so many times and we don't have any proposal. If somebody came to Damon with a proposal for scheduled air service and then he came to us and put it on
Yeah.
the agenda, then I would have
I
a totally
see.
different.
So just from
attitude.
here on, I would encourage, maybe after the meeting, talk to Damon and we get a little more information, then we kind of go from there.
I
But
get it.
talking about it, we can't go too much further in it. So
Okay, thanks.
thanks.
Anyone else? The open meeting rules are, we have to be very careful about the
Yeah,
tangents that discussions take, or we can quickly, and I'm guilty as anybody. So
And the perfect example is there may be a lot of people that would want to have that discussion, but we didn't let them know we were going to be talking about it, so
Sure.
they don't get to be here to be a part of it. So we didn't include the public. So now we're.
I wasn't
violating
sure how to
it
broach
again.
this subject. That's why I
Yeah.
started off with all respect to protocol. So, but I do understand now.
Yep.
Thank you very much, guys.
Are there any other suggestions for future agenda items? I think that what Mr. Dolan is saying, that if something comes up that we haven't talked about tonight and comes up 2 weeks from now, then there's nothing to prevent you from calling Damon
Yeah,
or myself or Mr. Dolan and saying, talk to somebody and see if we can talk about this
Yeah.
and put it on the agenda.
okay, good.
The big thing for discussion is it needs to be out in accordance with the rules for the
Yeah.
public so that they can come and participate in the conversation.
Okay, good.
If there's nothing further, then entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
future meetings, did you want to go over those?
Oh, I'm
also?
sorry. Future
Thank you,
meeting
Mr.
the next meeting is scheduled for February 17th. I'm assuming that depends on the posture of health and other things at this point. With the meetings are tentatively scheduled every month on the third Wednesday of the month. So item 10 is adjourn. A motion to adjourn from someone, please. Mark,
Second.
Motion to adjourn.
have a second.
Second.
Without objection, this meeting is adjourned.